West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy with Chef Justice Putnam. Netrootsradio.com.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays is moving fast and furiously against the 18 co-conspirators of Donald Trump, trying to bring them to justice for their role in the fake elector scandal. You've heard all about what the federal Department of Justice is doing, but don't sleep on what the attorney generals are doing around the country at the state level, including in Arizona. Not only do we have a fake elector who's flipped and pled guilty, but we have a former lawyer for Donald Trump, Jenna Ellis, who's cooperating with the Attorney General and their investigators against all the inner circle of Donald Trump. We break it all down for you on Legal AF. Take a listen. Let's talk about Arizona. You wanna kick it off? Talk about what's going on with Chris Mays. Why don't you start with what was it? Because it was like 2 months ago, and now what is it now?
Yeah, Alex. So the Chris Mays, the Attorney General in the state of Arizona, brought a case against 18 defendants, right? I had to look that up. I'm like, 18, isn't that the number in Georgia too with Fani Willis? And I guess 18 is the magic number regarding their fake elector scheme. And the some of the people you've heard of, right? The Rudy Giulianis of the world and Jenna Ellis, et cetera, some of the same familiar names and their roles in the fake elector scheme. And so what the big news that came out today, or this week, I should say, is that Jenna Ellis, who was Rudy Giuliani's attorney, they called her a senior, I can't remember what her title was, but senior legal advisor for the 2020 Trump campaign. That was her claim to fame. And she also said she was part of an elite strike force team of lawyers who often appeared on behalf of Donald Trump and was there to fight all of the claims that the election was stolen. And she was often side by side with Rudy Giuliani. And so if you remember, in Georgia, she pled guilty. She had a very tearful plea of guilty. She pled to felonies and she agreed to cooperate there. And so that was what she did. And essentially during her plea and her allocution, she basically said, look, if I knew then what I know now, I would have never represented Trump. I would never have done these post-election challenges. I didn't do my due diligence. I'm so sorry. And then of course she gets prosecuted in Arizona, and she's cooperating though there. And what was interesting about this and what was different to me about this was rather than having her plead guilty and cooperate the way, frankly, the feds do it, the way New York does it, the way a lot of people do it. They actually dismissed the charges against her. They left it open to be able to refile if she doesn't testify truthfully and if she doesn't meet the obligations of her plea agreement. And there are certain things she had to do in there, including cooperate with the prosecution, make herself available, provide information, documents, and testify truthfully. But they dismissed it in advance. And that's very unusual for cooperation agreements. And in fact, they didn't do it in Georgia either. What normally happens in a cooperation agreement is you plead guilty and you don't make any promises as a prosecutor, right? You don't say cooperate and then you'll get X, because that's going to be used against you on cross-examination. It's like, if I'm the defense attorney, you say, well, you're only lying, you're lying because you have to say this because you're getting, you in exchange for getting a sweetheart deal. Really, you don't make any promises. And the prosecutor says, let's see how you do. I'm not making any promises. Be truthful, and we'll go from there. And you have to tell the truth. And if you don't tell the truth, and if you lie, not only is your case going to proceed, you can also be prosecuted for perjury. It gets worse for you. So it was just an interesting way of doing it. But the Attorney General, Chris Mays, said her insights are, this is a quote, her insights are invaluable and will greatly aid the state in proving its case in court. So I don't know. She must be giving up some pretty good information to get an endorsement like that from the Attorney General and get her case dismissed in advance. If I were Rudy Giuliani, I'd be quaking in my boots because she must have some really good information.
I was going to translate that to all the other co-conspirators that work with her are effed. Legal AF'd, right? Because you're right. I mean, you would, like we had an example just to continue sort of our teachable moments, like, Alan Weisselberg could never trust the guy. And so you had to dangle in front of him, potential jail term longer than it would be if he didn't properly cooperate in a couple of these trials. And even there, he effed it up and ended up getting convicted again of perjury.
Exactly.
Because he couldn't get it right. Well, your old office, which is another testament to your old office, the fungible prosecutors that exist in the Manhattan DA's office, apparently. But here, you're right. It had to have been like the mother lode of information from Jenna Ellis. I mean, people remember there were 3 different lawyers who all pled guilty in Georgia. And they all had to read some sort of I'm sorry in court. Right. And then so Sidney Powell was this ridiculous, she's writing her mother in sleepaway camp about something she did wrong. And it was that's it. In Ken Chesborough was slightly better. But Jenna Ellis, this was Waterworks. This was Waterworld. This was, I was misled by older white men. How did I ever get here? And then she spent her now she's trying to don't buy any of that, by the way. Just go on her social media feed. Jenna in the morning. I'm not making it up, where she is MAGA through and through. She's just not a Trumper. She does everything else, though. And she's trying to recalibrate herself and save herself from 9 felony counts, which is what she was facing in Arizona. And also, she just barely missed getting disbarred off of what happened to her in Georgia. And kept her bar license. I don't even know how, but she did. But she's trying to make a living on Instagram and on social media and all of that. So, she is going, I am telling you, and you know it as a prosecutor, she's got the goods and she's bringing it. And if you think Rudy Giuliani's hair dye was melting down his face before, wait till you see it now. Because I'm telling you, these people, Mike Roman, John Eastman, Mark Meadows, Rudy Giuliani, Boris Epstein, the inner circle for Donald Trump, many of whom who still are with Donald Trump, like Boris Epstein, who were already, many of them either indicted in Georgia, almost indicted in Georgia, or the like, have a lot to worry about. And it's not the last flip. It started with 18, as you so perfectly pointed out. It's down to 16. I said it's going to be like the International House of Pancakes. Flip, 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 flip. There's going to be at least another 5 or 8. First of all, the fake electors, there's 11 of them, now 10. because Miss Pellegrino, who was like a MAGA activist and ran a women's club for Republicans, she's now pled guilty as one of the fake electors because she's facing 9 felony counts, and none of them, they're never going to be helped by Donald Trump. The only ones that are sticking together and are willing to go to jail for Donald Trump are the ones that they think Donald Trump and MAGA will benefit in the future, and that this will be sort of a something of value or virtue to them because they went down with the ship and they weren't a snitch or whatever the phraseology is. But the rest, get out of harm's way, man. Like run for cover. Every man for himself. So that's what happened in Georgia. Almost all the fake electors, except for the ones that were like elected Republican officials, they all flipped. And that case was moving down a very nice track until it got stuck in the mud over Bonnie Willis having a relationship with somebody in her office. But that's not happening with Chris Mays in the Attorney General's office. And the importance of the Attorney Generals can't be understated, especially the ones that are in Democratic states, in blue states, because those convictions stick. They don't get immunity. Doesn't help them. I mean, maybe a little bit, depending upon what the issues are. But immunities, Donald Trump wasn't indicted in any of these places. But the co-conspirators who don't have immunity, these convictions are going to stick. And they can't be pardoned away by President Donald Trump if that were ever to happen, which is becoming increasingly unlikely. And governors of those states are not going to be commuting and pardoning sentences. So they've been really, really important. I think, as we said 2 or 3 months ago, keep an eye closely on the attorney generals in this state and the work that they're doing. It's really, really important. Sometimes we just get sort of sidetracked talking about the Department of Justice and the feds. But, as you know well, state prosecutors and attorney generals are just as, if not more important in certain contexts than the feds.
Yeah, I'm as you know, proud state prosecutors. There's often a little bit of a snobbery, I will say. It's almost like people, who the Ivy League, people who go to Ivy League schools versus people who don't. There's a little bit of a elitism and snobbery. And same with federal versus state prosecutors. It's interesting. It's a very occasionally we get looked down upon, but I couldn't be more proud of state prosecutors as usual.
I think you look down on state prosecutors like Karen Friedman and Knifilo at your own risk. You underestimate them at your own risk. Because when you're sitting in a jail or prison, it doesn't really matter which prosecutor puts you there. So I would not underestimate any of them, especially in New York. I think the Manhattan DA, of course, is the elite trial squadron, criminal prosecutor squadron. That's my view. And I'll go to my grave with that view.
It is Monday, the 12th of August of 2024, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner the English Bulldog is our snoozing sous chef. Precious, our little Yorkie, the door girl, well, she wants to sleep in a little bit, so she will. That means that we will be seating you directly for our especially special daily special River City Hash Mondays. Oh my, it's a lot more gourmet than it sounds. I'll tell you why. Because we take what was left over from the weekend. Don't be frightened about that. Because we are able to, well, in some parlance, repurpose it into a lovely gourmet delight for your gourmet dining pleasure here on Mondays in the morning. Okay. We're just keeping up with the theme of this salon that we call West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we are in the Bistro Cafe of said salon. For those of you who are, well, new or relatively new, we always finish up at the chef's table. I know in Europe the chef's table is first. Yeah, but their salads are last too, right? And I'll tell you why. Because you need the roughage. And it's a much more healthy way to eat. So eat your salad afterwards. But here in America, we do the little amuse-bouche afterwards, because here at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, the chef's table is on the way back to where the Speakeasy is. And so I like to think the fun begins when the microphones are turned off. That's the theme that we have here, and we're sticking with it. Okay. Yes, we are. Well, update on our little girl, Precious. She's still here. It's okay. Crawled up once again onto her. Well, I call it her sofa now because she likes it, and she gets up on it by herself. And that's a good sign. Now, she has been getting prednisone once daily, and then this pain medicine, and I don't have it in front of me, and I forget how to pronounce it. But regardless, she's been getting that twice daily. The issue with the ears, well, we're still irrigating them and taking care of that, and it seems to help. She doesn't like it very much when I clean out the right one. Who knows? Must be tender. But regardless, once I start rubbing the solution down into the ear canal, she goes, oh, okay, well, I think that feels better than what it was. And we're taking care of that. I'll remind folks that could be, as according to Dr. Dickey, who has been a veterinarian for 30, going on 40 years, maybe not that long, but 30 years at least, said that in all his time he's never seen this anomaly occur, and he presumes that it's from her compromised immune system. So, well, we'll have to attend to that so that this palliative care that we are affording our little girl, keeps her comfortable. We don't want her uncomfortable. And yeah, anyway, I love her. Sue me. Gunner is doing quite well. We all went for a drive last night and got a little, I'll tell you, we went to Dairy Queen and got dinner. All right. I wanted a milkshake. And I'll tell you, I wanted a burger too. And fries. Well, I got onion rings. I got fries for the dogs. Unsalted, unseasoned. It's okay. They can have a little treat. But, so we went out and they liked it. So when I picked up Gunner to get him in the car, I can actually tell he's lost some weight. Even from the last time that he was weighed. He will be going in for his little procedure on, I believe, September 9th. I need around there. So the more weight he loses before that, the better. And I think he's well on to getting back to his svelte, healthy self. Okay. He's doing quite well. I'm just knock on wood. All right. Alrighty. So, what's happened in the world? What has not happened in the world? I think, according to the Trump campaign, everything about the Harris campaign and Waltz is fake. It's all not real. They're not real. She's not a real black. She's not a real Indian. He's not a real military veteran. He lied. It's just so patently, well, shall we say racist and playing the same old swift boat tactics there now, ain't you guys? Well, we're on to you and F you. Jesus. 24-year career. This guy was already retired from the National Guard, and he joined back up because of September 11th. Old draft dodger Bone Spurs there on September 11th went out and bragged, "Now I have the tallest buildings in New York." It was a lie, but he went out and said it. Yeah. Didn't like John McCain because he doesn't like suckers and losers who get caught. He was a prisoner? He got caught. Yeah, well, you know what, Donnie? Draft dodger Bone Spurs. you're caught. And they don't like it. He's having, I don't know, this is, I actually have more than just an opinion on this. I also have been loath to make any kind of diagnoses from afar. But the guy's off his rocker. Come on. Total, I mean, whatever chemicals he puts on his body, plus there have to have been some crazy ass chemicals back then that he was taking because he was a rich boy and they all had first dibs on this stuff. They were guinea pigs for the rest of us of what not to do. You put them on the treadmill and the next thing you know, I'm not taking whatever that gopher took. No way. Or guinea pig, not gopher. We didn't put gophers on treadmills. I'm sorry. Guinea pigs. So I always looked at the class of people that through history got gout. Don't live like that. Be a little bit healthier. You don't want gout. It hurts. Oh, man. Yeah, I've had like crazy ass crystal stuff that they thought might have been gout, and it turned out not to be. But it still, you got to be careful about, what's in your, elevated uric acid is not good. No, it's not. So why are we on that's this subject? Because not only is this guy out of his rocker from all the chemicals he's put on and in his body, but apparently he has a problem with mom and anybody who tells him no. So, yep. The guy that looks like Radar on MASH and talks like Patton. Maybe not Patton. Patton was a little bit more of a elitist, let's be clear. Okay. I don't know, maybe like Will Rogers. Yeah. Maybe we'll put that moniker on old Waltz there. He's like a reincarnation of Will Rogers. People go, who? God, I hate this life sometimes. It's like you become a historian just by simply living long enough, and you're one of the few who remember it all. Jeez. Okay. Well, I'm not even close to being a professional historian who are now being pilloried because they have the facts. I can't remember who it was that came out and said about maybe it was Waltz, or not Waltz, I'm sorry. Maybe it was Vance who came out in opposition to some historian survey that put Biden, I think, around 17th of the best presidents. And of course, Trump is like way down. But there was some sort of opposition on the MAGA side that questioned the veracity of these supposed academic scholars. Yeah, of course you would. You let Tuberville, as a coach, take the salaries, the equivalent, his yearly salary was the equivalent, because I looked it up, of 28 full-time tenured professors. 28. So when they talk about getting rid of majors and stuff like that, like history, let's get rid of history. No one likes history anymore. You don't need history. It's because of guys like Tuberville taking the salaries of 28 tenured professors, because apparently football is much more important than history. And then elevate that guy to, senator over the guy who broke up the KKK and went after the people that killed the Freedom Riders. Yeah. I'm just saying. And Okay, and now we have Waltz, who was actually a coach also. He was the head coach. He was only an assistant coach, the defensive coordinator. Oh, you mean like the vice president? Okay. It was when Waltz was put in as defensive coordinator of that high school team who had a perennial losing record for, I don't know, hell a long time. Years and years and years and years and years. And within 3 years from the time kids got into their freshman year and then in their senior year, they had won the state championship. It was because of Waltz up there. Or actually, I'm going to not even commit myself because he may have actually been one of those defensive coordinators on the field, especially since I don't know the economic demographic of the high school that he taught at. In the neighborhoods there, that would have determined whether they had a stadium with a press box and where the coaches would sit. Sometimes you don't have that. And sitting at the highest part of the stadium grandstand isn't still high enough. So, in my high school, we had my track coach was also a professional photographer who had all sorts of work that was in track and field news and football magazines and whatnot. But he acted as sort of a scout from on high because he was up on one of those big light standards where the Klieg lights were illuminating the field for the football games. And on a walkie-talkie, he would give a coach on our sideline some info. And there was a big to-do about whether they could allow to do that because I guess no one had thought that, hey, we got this technology, let's use it. I still remember that was like quite a big to-do. Can you really let a guy get up on the light standard and walkie-talkie back down the formations and what they're doing at the time? No. Anyway, we are so far afield, but it is a Monday, so we do that, and it's still summer too, and we do that, and since this spring and summer has been one of transition, acknowledging that one's parents are, well, you know, there's a rainbow bridge for all of us, apparently. And I like to think that memory can conjure quite a bit of, well, I don't know. I like to have good memories. I like to conjure what it was that caused us to be with the people that we are with, whether by accident, design, or choice. And I like to think that, sometimes there might be good in all of that somehow. Somehow. I'm just so tired. How about you? I'm tired of people who want to find fault with America at every turn. I'm tired of people who say that, Waltz let Minneapolis burn to the ground in 4 days while his wife said she wanted to sleep with the windows open so they could smell the tires burning. Can you give me a break, please? I'm tired of that BS. I'm tired of Megyn Kelly coming out and swift-boating people, doing what she does, lying through her teeth. Plus, hey kids, Santa is white. That's what she said. I am not going to take any advice from anybody who wants to fill little kids' heads with, I don't know, priming them to hate. Oh, God. Anyway, I want more joy. And I like the idea that the guy that looks like an elderly radar on MASH and Captain Marvel. I wish that Madam VP, our candidate for president, when she becomes president, her official uniform will be the Captain Marvel uniform. I think that would be great. That's going to be a big one for Halloween this year. I am telling you. Yeah. I'm talking about Kamala Harris in a sort of a cartoon AI-generated meme is in Captain Marvel's uniform. A lady who kicks ass and has fun doing it. Does a pretty good cook. I said on the Tim Gorham show that she's going to be the first president who doesn't need a chef. She's going to fire the chef. She's going to take over that kitchen. Cook some real food, which means all the food from around the world. Alrighty, what do we have in store for you? I don't know. It's Monday. That'll be my excuse. Well, we went through the Midas Touch clip about prosecutors bringing the hammer down, and they should. Yeah, let's hope that the Supreme Court, Roberts, who decided beforehand he was going to grant Trump total immunity because it's this politically expedient thing for a balls and strikes guy to do. Let's hope he doesn't extend that privilege to, co-conspirators and fake electors. We'll see. On the rest of the menu, the financial services industry has blocked the Biden administration from requiring brokers to put retirees' needs first above lucrative commissions. Yeah, it was this services industry of the financial sector who wanted, stock commissions and such to be considered gratuities and tips. And now bribes are also gratuities and tips. No wonder they don't want to tax them. Don't believe it. Don't let them have it. West Virginia's High Court upheld a lower court's panel decision to remove 2 GOP county commissioners who refused to attend meetings. Yeah, we're going to get elected and make sure that democracy is destroyed by just not showing up. Yeah, that's how they work. And Senator Schumer, says he will work to block any effort in the Senate to significantly cut the CDC's budget. Okay, significantly? Come on. No cuts at all? Well, we'll see anyway. After the break, we move to the chef's table where King Charles III applauded the people who stood against racism during the recent unrest in the UK. Well, yeah, it took the progeny of punks and old punks themselves to mobilize it. Glad he pointed them out. And a wildfire near Greece's capital has darkened the skies over Athens and is advancing fast. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. And of course, we are going to tuck into this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy River City Hash Mondays. It is by Tony Rom from the Washington Post. To protect older Americans' life savings, President Joe Biden pledged in October to crack down on financial advisors who recommend investments just because they pay higher commissions. Then the industry got to work. Lobbying groups representing New York Life, Lincoln Financial Group, Prudential Financial, and other companies first pushed back against the newly proposed regulations before suing to topple them entirely. Now, the government's latest attempt to protect retirees is in political and legal limbo, facing the possibility that it may never take effect. It is the latest example of a pervasive pattern. As the Biden administration tries to impose new restrictions on powerful industries, those businesses successfully turn to Congress and the courts for a reprieve. This time, the resulting clash centers on a basic question. Should federal law require more financial professionals to put retirees' needs above all else, including their own paychecks, when they offer advice about how to invest? Well, I'll just jump in here right quick and let you know that the financial advisor that held my mom's trust quit Lincoln over this very issue because his fiduciary responsibility, as a truck goes by here early in the morning, his fiduciary responsibility is to his client, not to his commission, and he stated as such in his letter of resignation after 25 years with Lincoln. Leah Willingham at the Associated Press brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. West Virginia's High Court has upheld a lower court panel's decision to remove from office 2 county commissioners who refused to attend meetings. The State Supreme Court of Appeals affirmed the May decision of a panel of 3 circuit court judges to strip Jennifer Krause and Tricia Jackson of their titles as Jefferson County commissioners in an abbreviated order that was released last week. The justices did not explain their reasoning, but they said a more detailed opinion would follow. Circuit Court Judges Joseph K. Reeder of Putnam County, no relation, Jason A. Wharton of Wirt and Wood counties, and Perry Joe DeChristopher of Monongalia County determined that Krause and Jackson engaged in a pattern of conduct that amounted to the deliberate, willful, and intentional refusal to perform their duties. Krause and Jackson, who was also a Republican candidate for state auditor but lost in the primary, were arrested in March and arraigned in Jefferson County Magistrate Court on 42 misdemeanor charges ranging from failure to perform official duties to conspiracy to commit a crime against the state. The petition to remove the 2 women from office was filed in November by the Jefferson County Prosecutor's Office, and the 3-judge panel heard the case in late March. Associated Press staff brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy River City Ash Mondays. The Senate's top Democrat said yesterday, Sunday, he will work to block a plan that will significantly cut the proposed budget of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, warning that such a spending reduction could endanger the public. Well, yeah, that's exactly what they want, Chuck. Majority Leader Chuck Schumer of New York told the Associated Press he would block legislation from passing the Senate if it were to include the proposed cut. Democrats said the proposal in the House bill reduces or includes a reduction of the CDC's budget by $1.8 billion or 22%. That would harm public health. Almost a quarter of their budget, please. The Republican-led effort would also mean a major cut in programs designed to address firearm injuries and opioid overdose prevention. I think they want to manipulate a few numbers for fear purposes. Let us now go to our break and ponder that. And when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we have curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Kim Lowe. This week, a different kind of parent trap. M. Night Shyamalan is so known for his signature plot twist that he's practically an adjective. However, the surprise in his latest offering, Trap, doesn't revolve around such a twist, but instead on something far more unexpected. Empathy for a cold-blooded serial killer. It's not a surprise that the lead character Cooper, played by Josh Hartnett in a career-defining role, is the butcher. When he's not ruthlessly kidnapping and murdering, Cooper is a caring family man, here fulfilling his teenage daughter's dream by taking her to see her pop idol Lady Raven in concert. However, Cooper soon learns that the concert is really a sting operation to catch him, so he has to figure out an escape before the cops can close in. It's not an easy task, but one gets the impression that Cooper couldn't have been as successful at his secret avocation if he weren't damn smart. The film becomes a game of cat and mouse, with Cooper's nemesis turning out to be an FBI profiler, played by the legendary former child star Hayley Mills, who always anticipates his next move. While Trapped is ostensibly about a killer, it's also a meditation on family and the secrets that all families have. Casting Mills, the original star of the Disney classic The Parent Trap, is cute, if not brilliant. Also keeping with the family theme, Shyamalan casts his daughter, Salika, as Lady Raven. While it's tempting to write her off as a Nepo baby, Salika shows real talent both as a singer and an actress, though more for the former. That, along with her photogenic features, makes her a captivating performer with a potential career. Overall, Trapped is one of Shyamalan's better offerings of late. While there are some credulity-straining moments, it'll keep you engaged. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Kim Lowe. Catch up with us at take2moviereview.com and feed us back on our channel on YouTube.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Tom Hartman, and since you're listening to netrootsradio.com, show your progressive side and go to the donate button on the bottom of the homepage. It's progressives like you who power Netroots Radio and keep the progressive message beaming everywhere 24 hours a day. Just go to our donate button at the bottom of netrootsradio.com. Thank you for keeping progressive radio at full power.
What can we expect if Trump is elected? I'm Bill Newman, and this is the Civil Liberties Minute. Let's start with Project 2025, a series of extreme policy proposals from the Heritage Foundation that several Trump loyalists assisted in preparing. Project 2025 calls for initiating mass deportations, mandating discrimination against trans people, and censoring classroom discussions about race and gender. And, as the late-night TV ads say, there's more! There's much more! The plan calls for replacing tens of thousands of career civil service employees with political loyalists, and prosecuting persons who send or receive abortion pills, and putting more and more power in the hands of the president. Recently, Trump has tried to distance himself from Project 2025, but the reality is that the recently adopted Republican Party platform and Project 2025 share key policies that would attack your, our rights. On the ACLU website, that's aclu.org, you'll find memos on the major presidential candidates' positions on abortion access, LGBTQ justice, voting rights, immigration, anti-discrimination laws, criminal issues, free speech, surveillance, the First Amendment, and the right to protest and speak out. Although the ACLU does not endorse or oppose candidates for elected office, we recognize that there will be drastically different realities depending on who is president. And we believe emphatically in the importance of an informed electorate. The Civil Liberties Minute is made possible by the ACLU because freedom can't protect itself. It needs you.
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. We're beginning a series exploring whether our presidential election is safer now from being overturned by bad actors. In our first report, we examine new protections in the Federal Electoral Count Reform Act. The attempt by GOP bad actors to legally and savagely pressure Vice President Mike Pence to not certify the 2020 presidential election resulted in changes to the Federal 1887 Electoral Count Act. It takes 270 electoral votes to win a presidential election out of a possible 538 from the 50 states plus D.C. The fake elector scheme hinged on members of Congress objecting to their state's count, reducing Joe Biden's number of electors, then substituting a slate of fake electors, giving Donald Trump the electoral votes instead. The Electoral Count Reform Act raised the threshold to consider an objection in the House and Senate from one senator and one representative to 1/5 of each body. Should the bodies vote to object to a state's count, the total electoral votes needed to win diminishes by the number of that state's electors, removing the incentive to object. It also clarified the role of the vice president as procedural, not judging the validity of the state's counts. We'll explore how the act clarified the state's role in our next report. Find detailed resources at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org. I'm Brian Beal.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1955. That was the day Teamsters organizer, 28-year-old William Grammy, was kidnapped and beaten. Grammy had arrived in Sebastopol, California to help organize about 350 workers in local canneries, drying plants, and fruit sheds. The Teamsters had been on campaign footing for months in an attempt to win union recognition, higher wages, better working conditions, and benefits. They had lost a union representation election the previous fall after Sebastopol apple growers moved quickly to lay off union supporters. By January, cannery workers at Oscar Hall & Sons voted for union representation. The workers at Barlow Company would vote against the union just 2 months later. But by early August, the strike wave hit. Workers walked off the job at the Sebastopol Cooperative Cannery. More at 7 other area canneries joined them on strike in the days that followed. Grammy would later testify that he had heard reports weeks earlier of a grower threatening to have him killed within 3 hours should any strike actually take place. During the strike that would ultimately prove victorious, 3 men kidnapped Grammy outside the union's hall. He was driven along a rural road, tied to a pole, gagged, and beaten with a bicycle chain. Left for dead, he was found the next day and hospitalized immediately. But the union and the strikers remained undeterred. Before the strike was over, scab trucks attempting to haul apples to market were vandalized and burned, and scab drivers were beaten. 8 months later, the apple industry finally came to the negotiating table. By May of 1956, apple growers signed with the Teamsters.
Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, and follow us on the Twitters at Labor History in 2.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, River City Hash Mondays. We always begin weather from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, because there's lots more of us where we come from, where it is currently 62 degrees Fahrenheit, expecting highs only around the mid-80s, so looks like fall is upon us, and our temperatures won't be getting up, hopefully, much more than 85 to 88 or so. That's a reprieve from what we've had. Plentiful sunshine throughout the day with winds out of the west-northwest at a brisk 10 to 15 miles per hour, though we are in a air quality alert. Right here at the mothership, the air is not so bad. We'll see how it is for the general area later on here in the broadcast. Looks like we'll have a few clouds overnight with lows in the low to mid 50s. I consider that to be nice as well. Winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Sunny tomorrow with highs once again in the mid 80s. Winds out of the west northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Grass pollen is rated low here in our little town of Rogue River. And yes, indeed, the air quality index for the region, where the monitor just happens to be down at the hardware store, is registering at the moment only 9, less than 10. 9 parts per million. That's quite low. I like it. No wonder it tastes and smells sweet. Oh my, the daytime UV index is very high at level 8, so you do need to still take care for that. Barometric pressure is falling at 29.98 inches. Visibility is up to 10 miles. And relative humidity is drying out, currently at 62%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world, and that is the Weather Underground. London is 89 degrees and fair. Paris is 98 and sunny with a heat advisory. Rome is 98 and sunny, also with a heat advisory. Kabul is 76 and clear. Hong Kong is 83 and clear. Tokyo is 85 and clear. Auckland, New Zealand is 53 degrees and fair. San Francisco, California is 56 and mostly cloudy. Chicago, Illinois is 75 degrees and partly cloudy. And New York, is a sweltering 78 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny. Sounds nice. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. At the World Desk of the Associated Press brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. King Charles III applauded people who took to the streets of British towns and cities earlier this week to help blunt days of unrest fueled by far-right activists and misinformation about a stabbing attack that killed 3 girls. Charles on Friday held telephone audiences with Prime Minister Keir Starmer and law enforcement officials, during which he offered his heartfelt thanks to police and other emergency workers for their efforts to restore order and help those affected by the violence, Buckingham Palace said in a statement. The king shared how he had been greatly encouraged by the many examples of community spirit that had countered the aggression and criminality from a few, with the compassion and resilience of the many, the palace said. It remains His Majesty's hope that shared values of mutual respect and understanding will continue to strengthen and unite the nation. Yeah, well, tell the right wing. Thousands of anti-racism campaigners turned out in communities throughout Britain to counter any resurgence of violence on Saturday. Police remained on alert for further unrest after the nation was convulsed by rioting for more than a week, as crowds spouting anti-immigrant and Islamic slogans attacked mosques, looted shops, and clashed with police. Police had prepared for confrontations at more than 100 locations on Sunday after right-wing groups circulated lists of potential targets on social media, while anti-racism groups planned counter-protests in response. In most places, they reclaimed the streets with nothing to oppose. Starmer had insisted the police will remain on high alert, which marks the beginning of the professional soccer season. This weekend it did, actually. Authorities have been studying whether there is a link between the rioters and groups of football hooligans known to incite trouble at soccer matches. Well, you know what they say in Britain. No shit, Sherlock. Staff at the World Desk of the Associated Press brings us this final amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. A wildfire burned northeast of Athens yesterday, Sunday, darkening the sky as the smell of smoke and soot pervaded the Greek capital. More than 400 firefighters, 110 fire engines, and a large number of volunteers were fighting the fire, which broke out around 3 p.m. local time, about 22 miles from Athens. The 15 firefighting planes and 9 helicopters were operating by late afternoon but stopped at sunset. The flames were moving fast toward Lake Marathon, an important reservoir supplying Athens with water, said Fire Colonel Vasilios Vathoragagiannis, a spokesman for the fire department. An unknown number of houses have been damaged. We'll continue following and monitoring this story as it develops, but that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day. But you do know Netroots Radio broadcasts on, and we will meet up here tomorrow for Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks. And we will meet up here tomorrow, right here, in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Appétit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Robe à fleurs, sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.